Humans are not biologically designed to survive above 8,000 meters. We call it the death zone for a reason. At this altitude, oxygen levels drop to a third of what you breathe at sea level, and the human body actively begins to consume its own muscle tissue for energy. You probably assume Mount Everest, the roof of the world, holds the title for the most lethal peak simply because of its height and the sheer number of bodies frozen in its Rainbow Valley. The data, however, tells a much darker, more complex story. While Everest claims lives, it is statistically far from the deadliest. There are peaks where 1 in 3 climbers never comes back down. Mountains that make Everest look like a commercial hike. We are going to rank every single 8,000-meter peak by fatality rate, moving from the surprisingly survivable to the absolute killers. You're watching Unclimbed Earth, where the summit is only half the story. If you appreciate this forensic approach to high-altitude history, subscribing ensures you're with us for the next expedition into the unknown. To understand these rankings, we must first understand the arena. There are 14 mountains on Earth that pierce the stratospheric ceiling of 8,000 meters. They are the crown jewels of the Himalayas and the Karakoram Ranges. Climbing any one of them is a flirtation with mortality, but they are not created equal. Some offer gentle, rolling snow slopes. Others are vertical walls of crumbling rock and blue ice that seem to actively hunt the climber. The metric we are using today is the death rate, the ratio of fatalities to successful summits. This number strips away the romance and leaves only the cold, hard probability of survival. It reveals which mountains are indifferent giants and which ones are serial killers. When you step into the death zone, you are entering a biological countdown. Your digestion shuts down, your blood thickens to sludge to trap oxygen, and your brain begins to swell against your skull. Every second spent here is borrowed time. We begin our ascent at number 14, the statistically safest of the giants, Cho Oyu. Standing at 8,188 meters on the border of Tibet and Nepal, Cho Oyu is often called the turquoise goddess. With a fatality rate hovering around 0.55%, it is the anomaly of the death zone. The low death rate isn't an accident of geography. It is a result of slope geometry. Cho Oyu lacks the terrifying vertical faces of its neighbors. Its standard route is a long, steady slog up moderate snow slopes, largely free from the catastrophic objective hazards like serac falls or avalanches that plague other peaks. Commercial expeditions use it as a training ground, a high-altitude classroom where mistakes are punished by exhaustion rather than death. But do not mistake safe for easy. Even here, the air is thin enough to kill, and weather systems can turn a gentle slope into a wide-out tomb in minutes. Yet, compared to what lies ahead on this list, Cho Oyu is a sanctuary. Moving slightly up the danger scale to number 13, we find Gushabrum 2 in the Karakoram Range of Pakistan. At 8,035 meters, it is the lowest of the Karakoram 8,000 airs, but it presents a distinct shift in terrain. The death rate here sits at approximately 2.3%. While still statistically favorable, the jump from Cho Oyu is significant. The danger here isn't the steepness of the upper mountain, but the approach. To reach the base of the climb, mountaineers must navigate the Gushabrum icefall, a labyrinth of shifting ice towers and hidden crevasses that can swallow a team whole. Once above the icefall, the southwest ridge offers a relatively direct line to the top. It is this directness that keeps the death toll low. Climbers spend less time exposed to the elements. However, the Karakoram weather is notoriously more volatile than the Himalayas. A storm on Gushabrum 2 hits with a ferocity that can strip a climber from the ridge, a reminder that in Pakistan, the mountains are wilder, more remote, and far less forgiving of hubris. At number 12 is Broad Peak, standing just across the glacier from the Savage K2. With a death rate of roughly 5.5%, we are now entering territory where the risks become palpable. Broad Peak is deceptive. It lacks the technical sheer faces of its neighbor, leading many to underestimate it. But Broad Peak demands endurance that breaks the strongest wills. The summit ridge alone is over 1.5 kilometers long, a high-altitude tightrope walk that requires climbers to traverse exposed terrain for hours above 8,000 meters. This extended time in the death zone is where the danger lies. The longer you stay at that altitude, the higher the risk of cerebral or pulmonary edema. Many climbers have reached the summit, believed they had conquered the mountain, and died trying to navigate the deceptive final traverse to the true summit. It is a mountain that kills not with violence, but with exhaustion. It waits for you to burn your last reserve of energy on the long ridge, leaving you with nothing for the descent. The stakes rise sharply at number 11, Shishapangma. Located entirely within Tibet, this 8,027-meter peak holds a death rate of roughly 8%. This statistic is heavily skewed by a single terrifying factor: avalanches. Shishapangma is structurally unstable. Its standard route crosses vast, loaded snowfields that are prone to sliding without warning. The tragedy of Shishapangma is that it is technically one of the easier 8,000 airs to climb, which draws in those seeking to complete all 14 peaks. But the final ridge to the main summit is a knife edge of rotten snow. Many climbers stop at the slightly lower central summit to avoid this death trap. Those who push for the true top must navigate a cornice that hangs over a 2,000-meter void. It was here that the legendary Alex Lowe was buried in 1999, a stark testament that even the best in the world are at the mercy of Shishapangma's unstable snowpack. We have covered the so-called accessible peaks, the mountains where survival is statistically probable. But as we cross into the top 10, the odds shift. We leave the realm of moderate slopes and enter the domain of the vertical, where the mountains begin to fight back. The next peak on our list sits in the shadow of Everest, but it possesses a face of blue ice that has terrified generations. This is Lhotse. Standing at 8,516 meters, it is the fourth highest mountain on Earth, yet it is often unfairly dismissed as a mere satellite peak of Everest. They share the same base camp and the same route up the Khumbu Icefall and the Western Khum, but at the Yellow Band, the paths diverge. While the Everest crowds turn left, those climbing Lhotse turn right, straight into the mouth of the Lhotse Couloir. This narrow gully is a shooting gallery for falling rock and ice, a vertical wind tunnel that demands absolute precision. Statistically, Lhotse holds a death rate of roughly 3%, keeping it within the lower tier of the 8,000-meter giants. However, statistics can be deceiving. The low fatality rate is largely due to the shared infrastructure with Everest. Ropes are fixed early, and the path is well-trodden by Sherpa teams. But strip away the commercial support, and Lhotse reveals its true nature. The Lhotse face is a wall of glacial blue ice rising at 40 to 50-degree angles for over a vertical kilometer. One slip here without a secure anchor means sliding the entire length of the face. It was on this mountain in 1989 that the legendary Jerzy Kukuczka, the second man to climb all 14 8,000 airs, fell to his death when a second-hand rope snapped high on the unclimbed south face. Lhotse may be statistically safer than its neighbors, but it punishes arrogance with immediate severity. Moving away from the Himalayas and back to the Karakoram, the death rate begins to tick upward as we approach the mountain known as the Hidden Peak. Gusherbrum I stands just a few miles from its more popular sister, Gusherbrum II, but the two could not be more different in temperament. While Gusherbrum II welcomes hundreds of summits, Gusherbrum I remains a fortress of solitude. It is steeper, more remote, and significantly more technical, requiring complex mixed climbing on rock and ice at extreme altitude. The death rate on Gusherbrum I hovers around 9%. The danger here isn't just the angle of the ascent, it is the isolation. When climbers get into trouble on the Hidden Peak, rescue is often a logistical impossibility. The standard route, the Japanese couloir, is a steep, avalanche-prone gully that leads to a summit ridge exposed to the full fury of the jet stream. Unlike the commercial highways of Everest or Cho Oyu, Gusherbrum I is reserved for true alpinists who are willing to operate without a safety net. It represents the psychological shift in our ranking. We are no longer talking about mountains you can be guided up. We are talking about mountains you must survive. As we ascend this grim list, the technical demands skyrocket. Returning to the Nepal-Tibet border, just 12 miles southeast of Everest, sits a perfect four-sided pyramid of granite and ice. This is Makalu. It is the fifth highest mountain in the world, and for decades it was considered one of the hardest to solve. Unlike the other giants, which often have ridges that allow for a gradual, albeit exhausting, ascent, Makalu is guarded by steep walls on all sides. The final push to the summit involves navigating the French couloir and a knife-edge ridge of rock that requires technical climbing moves at 8,400 meters. An altitude where the brain is starving for oxygen and simple coordination becomes a monumental effort. Muckalu's death rate sits near 9%, a figure that has only lowered in recent years due to modern weather forecasting. Historically, it was much higher. The mountain is notorious for its wind. Its exposed pyramid shape catches the jet stream directly, scouring the snow off the upper slopes and leaving behind bare, bullet-hard ice. If you appreciate the distinction between simple altitude and this kind of technical brutality, subscribing to Unclimbed Earth ensures you won't miss our future deep dives into these specific routes. Understanding Muckalu is essential because it serves as the gatekeeper to the true killers. It filters out those who rely solely on fitness, demanding mountaineering competence of the highest order. But technical rock is not the only killer. Sometimes the mountain itself moves. This brings us to Manaslu, the mountain of the spirit. For years, Manaslu was considered a training peak for Everest, a step up from Cho Oyu. In the last decade, commercial operators have flocked to its slopes, dramatically increasing the number of summits. But this surge in popularity masks a terrifying reality. Manaslu is an avalanche engine. The death rate on Manaslu is statistically diluted by the recent flood of successful commercial summits, bringing it down to around 10%. But if you look at the historical data before the commercial era, it was one of the deadliest peaks in the world. The route to the summit requires climbers to pass through vast, unstable plateaus of snow that are prone to catastrophic collapse. In 1972, an avalanche swept through a Korean expeditions camp, killing 15 people in seconds. In 2012, another slide claimed 11 lives. The tragedy of Manaslu is that it lures climbers with non-technical slopes, only to bury them while they sleep. It is a mountain that doesn't require you to fall to die. It simply requires you to be in the wrong place when the snowpack decides to let go. We have now crossed the threshold. The mountains we have discussed so far, Lhotse, Gushebrumai, Muckalu, Manaslu, are dangerous, yes. They demand respect, but they are not the apex predators of the high-altitude world. The remaining peaks on our list do not just punish mistakes. They actively hunt climbers. We are entering the top 5, a zone where death rates double, and survival becomes less about skill and more about statistical luck. The next mountain is a massive white giant, notorious not for its height, but for a weather system so volatile it has wiped out entire expeditions without leaving a trace. That giant is Kangchenjunga. Standing at 8,586 meters, it is the third highest mountain on Earth, yet it receives a fraction of the traffic seen on Everest. This isolation is its primary weapon. Unlike the crowded Khumbu Icefall, where help is often nearby, Kangchenjunga sits on the remote border between Nepal and India, a fortress of ice that translates to the 5 treasures of the high snow. But the treasures here are guarded by a death rate hovering around 15%. What makes Kangchenjunga number 5 on our list isn't just the altitude. It is the sheer complexity of the climb. The route is a labyrinth of hanging glaciers and erratic seracs that refuse to stabilize. Climbers here face a unique psychological burden, the promise to the local gods. By tradition, mountaineers stop a few feet short of the true summit to leave the peak untouched for the deities. But while climbers show the mountain respect, the mountain shows no mercy in return. The upper slopes are battered by jet stream winds that can freeze exposed skin in seconds, and the descent, often performed in the dark after an exhausting summit push, is where the statistics turn grim. On Kangchenjunga, you don't just have to survive the climb, you have to survive the silence. There are no lines of Sherpas to guide you down, no beaten path to follow when the whiteout hits. You are completely, utterly alone. As we move to number 4, the environment shifts from complex isolation to raw, bludgeoning force. Dhaulagiri, the White Mountain, rises to 8,167 meters in north-central Nepal. For 30 years in the early 19th century, this was believed to be the highest mountain in the world, and in terms of lethality, it certainly feels like it. With a death rate of roughly 16%, Dhaulagiri is a lesson in deception. From a distance, it appears as a beautiful, symmetrical pyramid of snow. Up close, it is a wind tunnel, Dhaulagiri stands separated from other high peaks by the Kali Gandaki Gorge, the deepest gorge on the planet. This topographical anomaly funnels wind directly up the mountain's flanks, creating weather systems that defy forecasting. Expeditions here are frequently pinned down for weeks, their tents shredded by hurricane-force gusts that materialize out of clear blue skies. The standard route poses a specific, terrifying hazard known as the traverse, a horizontal crossing beneath hanging ice cliffs that act as a guillotine. You cannot climb faster to escape it. You simply have to walk beneath the blade and hope gravity holds for one more hour. If you appreciate the forensic detail we are applying to these geographic giants, subscribing helps support the research required to reconstruct these histories. Dhaulagiri proves that beauty in the high Himalayas is often a mask for violence. It lures you in with symmetry, then breaks you with wind. But even the winds of Dhaulagiri pale in comparison to the malice of number 3. We are now entering the territory of the man-eater, Nanga Parbat. Located in Pakistan, Nanga Parbat is an anomaly. It is the western anchor of the Himalayas, an isolated colossus that rises with such vertical abruptness that it creates its own weather systems. Before 1990, the death rate on this mountain was a staggering 77%. While modern equipment has lowered that figure to around 21%, the mountain has not softened. We have simply gotten better at running away from it. Nanga Parbat is defined by the Rupal Face, the single largest rock and ice wall on the planet. It rises 4,600 meters, nearly 3 vertical miles, straight up from the valley floor. To climb it is to commit to days of vertical existence where there is no place to rest, no place to retreat, and nowhere to hide from the avalanches that rake the face like clockwork. This mountain was the obsession of German climbers in the 1930s, an obsession that led to some of the worst disasters in mountaineering history. In 1934, 10 climbers died in a protracted storm. In 1937, 16 men were buried in their sleep by a single massive avalanche. The horror of Nanga Parbat is that it kills in every way imaginable. It kills with rockfall on the lower slopes. It kills with exhaustion on the endless Mizzino Ridge. It kills with cerebral edema in the death zone. It is a mountain that seems to actively resist human presence. When Hermann Buhl made the legendary first ascent in 1953, he did so alone, hallucinating, popping stimulants to stay awake, barely surviving a standing bivouac at 8,000 meters without oxygen. He proved it could be climbed, but he also proved the cost. Nanga Parbat strips a climber down to their absolute core. It is not a place for sport. It is a place for survival. We have now seen the isolated fortress of Kangchenjunga, the wind-battered pyramid of Dhaulagiri, and the vertical nightmare of Nanga Parbat. The death rates have climbed from 15% to over 20%. But there are 2 mountains left. 2 peaks that defy even the grim logic of the man-eater. The next mountain on our list is often called the Savage Mountain, and for good reason. It is the only 8,000-meter peak that has never been climbed in winter until very recently, and for decades, it held a curse that seemed statistically impossible to break. We are moving to the Karakoram, to a peak that represents the absolute limit of technical climbing at altitude. K2 rises from the Baltoro Glacier not as part of a range, but as a singular geometric pyramid of ice and black rock. It is the second highest mountain on Earth, yet it commands a fear that Everest simply cannot evoke. Climbers call it the Savage Mountain because it seems to possess a hostile intelligence. On Everest, the primary challenges are altitude and logistics. On K2, the challenge is the mountain itself. There is no easy route. The Abruzzi Spur, the standard path, is steeper and more technical than the hardest sections of most other peaks. But the true terror lies high in the death zone, at a feature known as the bottleneck. To reach the summit, climbers must traverse beneath a towering serac, a hanging cliff of ice the size of an apartment building. This ice is unstable. It fractures without warning. In 2008, a single collapse in the bottleneck severed the fixed ropes, trapping climbers above 8,000 meters in the dark. 11 people died in a single day. For years, the mountain held a grim statistic. For every 4 climbers who reached the summit, 1 died trying. It also held a specific, haunting curse regarding female climbers. For decades, the few women who reached the top did not survive the descent. a pattern that wasn't broken until 2004. K2 demands perfection. A slip on the shiny, bullet-hard blue ice means falling all the way to the glacier below. There are no flat spots to rest, no commercial infrastructure to save you. It is the ultimate test of high-altitude alpinism. And yet, despite its savagery, K2 is only the second deadliest mountain on our list. There is one peak that surpasses it. One mountain where skill is secondary to luck. We arrive at number 1. Annapurna. Located in north-central Nepal, Annapurna was the first 8,000-meter peak ever climbed, summit by Maurice Herzog and Louis Lequesnel in 1950. That expedition ended with severe frostbite and amputations, setting a gruesome tone for the mountain's future. For a long time, the fatality rate on Annapurna hovered near 32%. That is a staggering number. It means that statistically, if you and 2 friends started up the mountain, only 2 of you would come back. The danger of Annapurna is not technical difficulty, though the climbing is hard. The danger is objective. The mountain is a massive, crumbling architecture of snow and ice that is prone to frequent, massive avalanches. The north face acts like a funnel. Giant blocks of ice shear off from the upper slopes and sweep the entire route clean. Unlike K2, where you might survive by being a better climber, Annapurna offers no such bargain. You can be the strongest alpinist in the world, doing everything right, and still be erased by a falling serac. It is often described as playing Russian roulette with nature. You are simply betting that the mountain will hold together for the few days you are on its face. If this deep dive into the extremes of human endurance and geography has resonated with you, subscribing ensures you won't miss our next expedition into the unknown. The high fatality rate has dropped slightly in recent years due to better weather forecasting and helicopter logistics, but it remains the most dangerous of the 14 giants. It is a mountain that climbers dread, even as they are drawn to it. It represents the chaos of the high Himalayas, a place where human control is an illusion. So we have ranked them, from the easy slopes of Cho Oyu to the avalanche-swept face of Annapurna. We have seen the progression of danger, from 3% to over 30%. But looking at this list, a question remains. Why do they do it? Why step into the death zone, where the body begins to die the moment you arrive? Perhaps it is because these mountains offer the ultimate clarity. In the thin air, stripped of comfort and safety, life is reduced to its most essential element: the next breath, the next step. The death rates are not just statistics. They are the measure of the stakes. The higher the risk, the more profound the experience of survival. These 14 peaks stand as the ceiling of our world, indifferent to our ambitions, beautiful and terrible in equal measure. They will continue to call to those who need to know where the limit lies, and inevitably, they will continue to exact their toll. This is the reality of the 8,000-meter realm. It is the most majestic place on Earth, and it is the place where we are least welcome.